the dual-track system of market price and planned price, but a split strategy of opening prices while providing targeted subsidies. Although the relevant departments are still hanging on CPI and extremely sensitive to indicators, the use of administrative force to force down prices has gradually been falsified by the market, and all parties are forced to accept reality through market lessons. It will be a matter of time before prices are relaxed. But this is not to say that opening up is as simple as opening up. It requires the maturity of various conditions such as timing, policies, and situation. This will be a gradual process. Considering the affordability of society, relevant parties are likely to adjust the pace and speed of price liberalization with changes in the situation, giving society enough time and space to transform and digest. At the same time, liberalizing prices does not mean that the government will let go. Regulation can still affect prices, but the methods have changed. It is no longer administrative control, but indirectly affects prices by influencing market supply and demand, such as the rice bag, the gettable basket project, or price adjustment funds. So the crux of the problem lies not in opening up prices, but in how to maintain social stability. Looking at the impact of reform, the most likely impact is on the price-sensitive vulnerable groups. In order to stabilize people, ease hearts and promote reform, the government's bottom-up targeted subsidies may become a protective cushion for the gradual liberalization of resource prices in the future. This turns the key question to how to target subsidies, whether directly or indirectly. The reason why education reform and healthcare reform are in a dilemma is because relevant parties attempt to reduce the burden on the public through indirect subsidies from institutions, schools, hospitals, etc. The starting point is correct, but subsidy institutions are prone to rent-seeking and corrupt, but they cannot effectively compensate. Therefore, indirect compensation is better than direct compensation. The focus of future subsidies is likely to shift from subsidizing hospitals and schools to directly subsidizing patients, impoverished students, and the poor with quasi-currencies such as medical vouchers, education vouchers, and food vouchers. On the other hand, the operating mechanism of subsidies precisely involves the sensitive core of structural reform. Indirect compensation and direct compensation will originate from two different power operations. The former requires the separation of the linear functions of the administrative department from the powers directly under the state, while the latter requires research on the separation of decision-making and administrative execution. It is difficult to truly achieve separation in the short term. It may be a long-term trend towards future policy goals. But under the pressure of the situation, strengthening the power of become stories, that is, who can tell stories, whose stories are more credible, and who has more wealth. At present, investment banks seem to be the king of stories. Whether it's internationally renowned Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, or China's struggling private equity funds, they Ray all passionate about telling stories, ranging from building friendships with the president and prime minister to hyping up rumors about the chairman of a listed company. The purpose of hype is nothing more than to increase their equivalent. The financial civilization does not exist independently of other civilizations, but is linked to the first three civilizations. For example, agricultural listed companies graft financial civilization onto agricultural civilization, amplifying the achievements of agricultural civilization several times or tens of times through a financial civilization. Technology-based venture capital funds graft financial civilization onto industrial and information civilization, greatly improving the efficiency of industrial and information civilization. At present, the most successful grafting is still in investment (NKS), including popular IDG technology venture capital funds, VC venture capital, PE private equity investment, etc. Each of the four economic civilizations has its own differences. The older the era, the more complete its knowledge system is. However, at the same time, its knowledge is the efficacy also accelerates the decline. The characteristics of different economic civilizations vary greatly, and the corresponding knowledge systems have significant differences. Judging the development trend of the next civilization based on the knowledge laws of the previous civilization is similar to the Battle of Guangdong and Qiyingqing. At present, the society is generally unaware of the arrival of financial civilization, socialist market economy, and then the Th national congresses put forward equal enjoyment of national treatment. This is just a document. Ownership superstition has become the main obstacle to the transformation of national motivation, as it prevents the country from directly participating in the economy and competing for the interests of the people, and also provides opportunities for departmental interests to the representative functional departments of the national machinery, hindering the upgrading of the national version. The coexistence and common development of multiple forms of ownership is the economic foundation for achieving political power differentiation, and also the basis for effectively defining the power and responsibility of the state, society, and individuals. The awkwardness of the non-public articles has already proven the predicament of private capital. In view of this, the most committed step of the purification of national motivation came on the scene, which is the most controversial: judicial independence. It is precisely because of the above problems that the motivation of judicial independence is doubted. The biggest mistake is the understanding of the concept of the state. So far, the analysis in this paper shows that the state has gone beyond the scope of the class conflict violence machine and represents the general concept of all the people. In this case, judicial independence has become a means of balancing various functional departments within the state machine. Instead of being independent of the state machine, it threatens the operation of the state machine itself and brings endless internal strife, increases transaction costs, and reduces the efficiency of the state machine. So if a country breaks away from the superstition of ownership, It will not hinder the implementation of the principles of fairness and justice due to its own interests. It will also make mutual checks and balances within the state machinery, such as judicial independence, inevitable, and the state's motives will not be distorted and become the cause of conflicts of interest. The foundation of a harmonious society can only be considered settled. Policies have not yet posed a threat to price stability. The great stability of German currency lies in many aspects such as culture, economy, politics, law, and international environment. The result of the joint action of various factors is the legacy of historical disasters, which is formed by one's own efforts and demands. After the war, the two major inflations deeply planted the seeds of fear of inflation in the hearts of Germans, forming a stable culture among the people. The social market economy system emphasizes the formation of a competitive order by relying on price stability, which successfully tames inflation and protects a stable culture. The German Central Bank, which guarantees independence by law, advocates and inherits a culture of stability to protect the currency as its own responsibility. The dollar standard system and FIX, the exchange rate system of the Bretton Woods system, opened a window of trust for Germans who instinctively no longer believe in any currency. The long-term stability of the German real estate market has avoided macroeconomic imbalances, housing issues. Of the ultimate goal of the $1 billion rescue fund operation is to attract and leverage more private capital and social resources to join in the reconstruction of market order and confidence. This means that the problems caused by the greed of many players on Wall Street will ultimately be solved together by these players. As for the possible changes, whether it is directly controlled by the government, serving as both a judge and an athlete, or investing in private capital, investing in non-performing assets, the government's return from the front to the back means that it is difficult for the government to stand on the opposite side of private capital or market players. Mixed operation and joint cooperation may become new features of the next stage of the financial market. From the trend of mixed operation between commercial banks and investment banks, it can be seen that commercial banks have not been spared this time. With the support of investment banks and hedge funds, improperly taking on the risk of excessive home buyers and the excessive debt of investment banks themselves supported by credit products. The combination of the two may lead to further deterioration of the problem. Therefore, after the dust settles, after a period of repair, commercial banks are likely to repackage and sell their investment banking business, and the investment banking model will obviously not end. However, the transparency and leverage ratio of its derivative trading, including executives, will be strictly required and restricted. In fact, entering the financial civilization, the existence and reproduction of financial innovation and financial derivatives has become an important economic approach, which undoubtedly has a gambling nature, is inherently guilty of surplus liquidation. Therefore, this requires innovation in trading methods to adapt to the development of derivatives. In fact, The financial crisis is causing the global financial market to fall into painful reflection, making the United States and other countries, including the United States, face the challenge of the Washington Consensus. Although the major countries in the world have coordinated their actions to cut interest rates and inject capital, it is not difficult to imagine that after the crisis, the opening of the financial field of all countries will be cautious and explore the development path of the virtual financial market for the battlefield. In the short term, financial civilization has stagnated, but in the long run, with the recovery of investment banks, confusion between governments and financial institutions, especially the weakening of Wall Street's financial power center, which once dominated the game rules, and a decrease in trust, the international financial derivatives market will eventually become large. The financial civilization itself is also undergoing mutation and development, especially in the past years, where the world's finance has been changing and unpredictable against the backdrop of the lingering capital. Financial civilization is increasingly showing its power. First of all, financial civilization gradually transcends industrial civilization, and its laws are completely different from the law of value of industrial civilization. When financial civilization knocks at the door, many people familiar with the laws of traditional industrial civilization are realize later and use the wrong rules of industrial civilization to calculate. The result missed out on the benefits bestowed by financial civilization. LTCM, a hedge fund company managed by Nobel laureates who are proficient in the most complex risk products and models, fell on the eve of financial civilization, and billion arbitrage funds were wiped out. When the British Chancellor of the Exchequer was about to rise in the price of gold, he mistakenly estimated the situation and left more than half of Britain's gold reserve at the lowest point in years, which caused the British government to lose at least £1 billion, leading the Parliament to ask him to settle accounts in the autumn. Secondly, financial civilization has high requirements for the quality of other civilizations grafted onto it. If they can match each other, it will have a significant amplification effect on the achievements of other civilizations. Otherwise, reverse results will occur. Former British Prime Minister Thatcher keenly seized the key to the financial explosion and implemented a major transformation of the securities market, creating a new City of London and ushering in a new era of British finance. On the contrary, the Japanese version of the financial explosion backfired, not only failing to unleash vitality in Japanese finance, but also plunging it into numerous crises. The root cause is a lack of understanding of the special laws of financial civilization. Currently, a new wave of financial civilization is quietly hitting the Asian coast. But the panic of the financial crisis, these old experiences have deeply rooted in people's hearts, making people from all walks of life afraid of what is about to happen. Southeast Asian countries that have experienced the financial crisis are typical representatives, and they have strong vigilance against the current global liquidity surplus and asset price rise. Many countries have already started deploying in late and early S. as Vietnam, the Philippines, Thailand, India, etc., which have strengthened financial regulations in advance. In order to mitigate the risk of capital flight, Thailand even resorted to government intervention, which was counterproductive. While opposition to free currency floating suddenly in 80%, this situation undermines the balance between power and responsibility, thus making the political philosophy of the country the opposite of the trend. The main reason for domestic terrorist incidents to occur is the lack of national social and personnel responsibility matching refers to the contradiction and conflict of interests among the three parties being greater than harmony and consistency, and the destruction of this trinity relationship still stems from the division of interests and the imbalance between enjoying power and assuming responsibility. If national responsibility is still understood as unlimited joint and several responsibility for all actions, then as much hope as disappointment, national responsibility will be more manifested in providing and ensuring equal opportunities for individuals, and providing transfer payments to some vulnerable groups. In addition, the ability to provide normal channels and platforms for communication and exchange, so that fairness and justice can effectively play a role in handling unfair events, is also a requirement for national responsibility. Social responsibility is reflected in providing individuals with opportunities and conditions for free competition. Only on this basis can individuals have the possibility of equal competition, and only then can they not complain and hate society in the event of failure. The premise for all of this is still that the country is independent of social interests and has a responsibility for national power and borders. A clear definition of the boundary involves a fundamental issue in China's current economic structure: ownership superstition. Breaking this superstition has become the top issue in deepening reform and purifying national motivation. In the process of market-oriented reform in China, the relationship between state-owned assets and private assets does indeed reflect the trend of returning from abroad and advancing with the people. However, national retreat does not necessarily equate to democratic progress, and the weight of the two is not a trade-off in the adjustment process. In fact, the current situation is that state-owned assets are constantly strengthening and consolidating, while private assets are constantly being sacrificed and hovering on the edge. Although the 12th National Congress began to put forward common ownership as the main body and other forms of ownership as beneficial supplements, the National Congress put forward common ownership as the main body and a variety of economic sectors developed together for a long time. The National Congress determined common ownership as the core and non-public economy as an important part of the